channel. Apologies for the lighting, but you know, I've got a bit of a headache and I really wanted to get this video out. I'm trying to get this video done in a quickish time. I have already recorded this video and it was like over half an hour long, and I really don't want it to be half an hour. This is a topic that I kind of wanted to get out a while ago, and then it got put on the back burner, and it kind of got brought to my attention again the other day, because I put a question box on my Instagram, and somebody asked me a question, and I was like, do you know what, this is something I wanted to do a video about. And the question is, they basically asked me, how do I balance being a parent and having chronic health issues? Now obviously my situation is quite unique because I have 3 children that all have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, because obviously it is a connective tissue disorder that is hereditary, and they all have different severities, so some of them have it milder than others and things like that. My son has other health conditions. In particular, he has a kidney condition and other things going on. As a result of this, I have always put my kids' needs before my own. So there are a few things that I have basically had to do, but also things that I do that I find helpful, so that I can remember things. So the first thing I'm going to say is, and this is how I answered the person's question, is parenting is hard. Regardless of whether you have chronic health conditions or not, parenting is hard. It's probably the hardest job that you will ever do. But there is no right or wrong way to parent. Well, obviously there's a wrong way. Obviously if you do it wrong, then something can happen to your child. But there is literally like no right way to parent, or no one right way to parent. It's not like you have a baby or get pregnant or foster a child or adopt a child and you're given a manual on how to raise that child. So there is literally no one way to raise a child. You basically get yourself into some sort of routine and organization and rhythm, and that is how you basically roll. Having chronic health conditions just adds to that routine. So there's things that you may need to do that are extra that a normal parent that doesn't have health conditions won't have to think about. So you just factor those in, and eventually your routine becomes your routine and it just works. So I often get people come to me and say, Jeannie, I don't know how you manage. I know that you've got a lot on your plate with the kids and your own health. Like, I really don't know how you cope. I know I wouldn't be able to. And the fact is if you're not in that situation, it's easy for someone to say that to you. But actually, if they were in that situation, they would adapt and they would learn how to manage the time and the way around things and how to deal with things in their own way. And like I said, there is no right way. So you can have one routine for you. You can have somebody who has the same health conditions as you, maybe even have children that have health conditions that are similar, and they will have their way of doing things that might be slightly different to yours, but it doesn't mean that your way is wrong. It just means that you have found your way of doing things and they have found theirs. So eventually they would learn how to adapt and how to manage these things, because it becomes a routine. Just like anybody else's routine, like getting up and going to work or setting the kids off to school, whatever the routine is, yours will become routine. It is always hard at the beginning to try and factor in your own health problems and your own health needs on top of your children and every day-to-day stuff. So here's a few things that I do as a parent that help me. First of all, I always, especially if I've got a lot of appointments one week or there's a lot of things to do around the house or things like that, I will set myself a to-do list. That to-do list will factor in self-care, childcare, and obviously pet care because I have pets in my house, and house care and things like that. Obviously, the most important things are to make sure that my children have the things that they need, I have the things that I need to be done, and then the smaller things, which you may consider big things, like the housework and things like that, they fall under the smaller category. So if I even just manage to get the Hoover out on a daily basis, then that is a checkpoint for me because I'm able to do that. But I can't always Hoover up because it depends on how much pain level I'm at and what is obviously causing me flaring. Now, currently I have a child off school sick, so I'm having to give him ointments and creams and things applied to him 5 times a day, plus medication 4 times a day, on top of his usual medical stuff that we need to do. Because of his kidney conditions and other things like checking his urine for protein and things like that. And that's if we can catch his first urine of the day, which isn't always the case. Because he is off sick, I am having to walk up and down the stairs more often than I would typically normally do in a day. This would obviously cause my pain to flare more. I would get burnout a lot quicker, and sometimes my pain medication has to be delayed to be taken because I'm busy dealing with my child. And it's okay if you're delaying, but as long as you still get round to taking your medication and doing your installations and doing your irrigations and taking your medications and giving yourself injections or making sure your blood sugar's stable and things like that, depending on whatever health condition you have, as long as you're still finding time to do that, then that is important, because obviously if you are taking care of yourself and your health needs, then you will be in a better place to take care of your children the day after and so forth. Sometimes we find that this is difficult to do. I know for myself, like with my child being off school sick right now, I'm supposed to do irrigation every day or every other day, and at the moment I'm struggling to do it 2 or 3 times a week. Last week, because of the fact that my child was sick and very poorly, I was checking on him every half an hour, and I didn't end up on feed pretty much for the most of the week. I was just maintaining what I could orally, which was very difficult, and I spent the majority of the past week myself in a gastroparesis flare, which has never been ideal. Because I put my child need first, and every single parent in the world will tell you the exact same. They will always put their child's needs before their own because they want to get their child back to a normal way of living and going back to school, or, you know, back to their norm. Because no one likes a sick child. You know, it's upsetting and it's sad, and, you know, there's people out there that deal with sick children on a daily basis because they have other conditions that are harder to treat. And again, they have their own way of dealing with things, and they have what's known as their own level of normality. They find a routine around that, just like you find routine just getting up and going to work. We find routine around health conditions. So to-do lists are always handy, but do not put pressure on yourself to complete a to-do list. If you only do like 3 or 4 things off a to-do list that you've set up for a day, then that's fine, because there's 7 days in a week. You can do more things another day. If you find that by the end of the week you've still not completed your to-do list, don't worry about it. You've still got the next week. If you still find that you're doing all of these things but you have about a mountain of washing to do, but yet your kids are still wearing clean clothes, don't worry about it. You know, no one's expecting you to do everything at once. My next advice, which is something that I find extremely hard to do because I've been so independent since I was 3. So being chronically ill has actually obviously hindered my independence a little, which is I found very difficult, is ask for help and communicate your needs. This is very important because obviously you still need time to take your own medication, do your own medical care, but you also need time for yourself, for self-care and self-loving, because at the end of the day, you need to take that time out. If you're stuck indoors 24/7 dealing with children, you are not going to have that time. There is many times that I go about my day and by the time I'm sitting there, I think, oh, I'll need a shower, I'll have a shower later, it'll be on my to-do list to have a shower. And that shower doesn't get done because of the fact that I've been busy doing other things. Now, this is okay because I can just get a flannel and just like basically wash my body down. I don't have to have a shower. There's many times that I have spent 6 weeks before I've even managed to wash my hair. And that's because usually by the time I finished, excuse me, usually by the time I finish doing whatever I need to be doing, dealing with the children's healthcare, dealing with my own healthcare, doing the things that I can manage, which isn't a lot, but doing the things that I can manage throughout the day, I'm usually in a lot of pain and I can't physically stand or sit in a shower and try and do all of these things. If I try and wash my hair, my neck will click and then it'll cause a headache. These are certain things that I can't do, so I will put the shower on the back burner and I will literally just wash myself down, and my hair may be greasy for 6 weeks. I hate that when that happens and I feel disgusting and it's not very nice, but at the same time I'm doing what I need to do at the time when I need to do it. So I will get a shower. It just means it may take me longer to do so. Asking for help is very important. Communicating your needs, whether it be with a spouse, a partner, a family member, asking friends to step in because you need to go to an appointment, to pick your kids up from school, to look after a baby for half an hour while you go to an appointment, because your baby may wake up in the middle of that appointment and then you can't get what you need to get out in your appointment. Asking your spouse to basically take over when they come in from work so you can do some self-care on your own. Just stepping outside your back door or your front door for 5 minutes just to inhale some fresh air because you've been stuck in all day. Whatever you need to communicate that with your partners, with your friends, with your family. Parents have this perspective that they need to spend 100% of their time with their children, but in reality that's not exactly straight, because at the end of the day people need to go to work to earn money to feed their children, to keep a roof over their head. Especially single parents, they need to do certain things in order to ensure their children have everything that they need. They're not going to be able to do that if they spend 100% of their time with their children. If you can only spend 5 minutes with your child helping them do their homework, that 5 minutes means everything to that child, and it's something that they will remember. Children don't remember things that they get given for... Excuse me. Sorry. My cheap kinked in my throat. Never a good thing. Okay, so children don't remember possessions and things that they get for birthday or Christmases. They always remember people who are there for them, give them love and affection and memories that you make with them. So when they're like 80, 90 years old, and they're talking to their own grandchildren, they won't turn around and say to them, oh, when I was 5 years old, I got this from such a person. They're not going to remember that. But they might turn around and say, oh, when I was 5 years old, I remember going on holiday and I was scared to go on the water slide, but I did it anyway. And yes, I got water in my face. And yes, it was kind of stung my eyes. But at the end of the day, I'm so glad that I did it, because I conquered a fear and I was able to do this, and I was able to enjoy that slide, and I was enjoying my holiday more than I would normally do if I was just sat at the side of the pool scared to go on the slide in the first place. See where I'm coming from? They will remember that type of thing, and then they will tell their children so that they can overcome their fears and do the same things. The same applies to if we've made mistakes growing up. Like I made a mistake. I pulled a milk cart with my roller skates on when I was a child. I was about 6 or 7 years old at the time. I was pulling a milk crate and I tripped over the milk crate and I ended up breaking my arm. Now I tell my children, if you're going out on skates or bicycles or whatever, don't pull anything behind you because it could get trapped in your wheel and you could fall and break your arm. So we learn from mistakes and we learn as we grow. Parenting is just the same situation. You're in this new environment, you have this child you need to keep alive and look after. You learn to adapt to a way of doing things. But like I said, you will literally just factor in your medical stuff, and it'll eventually become routine for you. But communicating your needs, asking people for help, whether it be family members, spouses, whatever, writing to-do lists. Another thing that I do is if letters come through the door for appointments and stuff, because obviously I have children with health needs, pets with health needs, myself with health needs. If something comes through the door with an appointment on it, obviously hospitals tend to send things out weeks and months in advance. Letters tend to go missing. So I always write, we have a whiteboard, and I always write on the board what date the appointment is, what time it is, for who it's for, and where it is. It's always written on the board, and I also put it into my calendar on my phone. The reason I don't use a calendar in the house or a diary calendar to write things in is because, again, those things can go missing. And if you're out of your house for whatever reason, at least you have it flashing up on your phone saying, okay, in the next hour I need to be at a doctor's appointment, or I need to be at a PTA meeting, or I need to be at a parents' evening. These are the type of things that you write on your phone, as well as on like a whiteboard or whatever, so that you know that these things are coming up, so that if you're out of the house, it will flash up on your phone and then you don't forget. What else? I think that's pretty much all really that I do with. Like I said, asking for help is probably the biggest thing that I find a challenge, but that's only because I've been independent since I was 3, because I was in foster care and in a care home. So I've learned to be independent for a really since I was a baby. So I was basically changing my own sheets if I wet the bed and things like that at the age of 3, and I was cleaning up after myself, and tidying things up. And this has just been instilled into my brain since I was very, very small, just because I was in the care home setting. And then obviously when I did finally find my forever home, my mum and her partner at the time split up when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and she had to go back to work to make ends meet. So of course I was the responsible one, so most things fell on my shoulders to try and help out around the house. So I didn't really get much of a childhood, because I had a lot of independence and a lot of things on my shoulders that I needed to do to help out. That wasn't my mum's fault, it wasn't anybody's fault, it was just the way things were. But she knew she could rely on me because of the fact that I had always been independent since a very young age, and she knew that I was responsible to do those things. But like I said, you need to communicate your needs. If you've just had a baby and, they always tell you, like, sleep when your baby sleeps. I always find that if I could go back now and I've just had my first child, and I could go back to that time. When I first had my first child, I remember coming out of hospital. I was in hospital for a week, and because my daughter was poorly. So I ended up being in hospital for a week. As she came out of hospital, the day she came out of hospital, I basically was home about an hour before I had to get her changed and dressed and ready to go and visit family. I wasn't up to visiting family. I just wanted to be at home and chill out and rest and recuperate and enjoy my baby at home. And I wasn't able to do that. I ended up having to visit family. Then family ended up visiting me. And whenever my baby was asleep, I was doing something, or there was somebody visiting to visit and hold the baby and things like that. So I didn't really get a lot of time to sleep when my baby slept, and recuperate myself in order to look after my baby as sufficiently as I wanted to. My mum ended up taking a lot of the care of my child, which was hindering my bonding session with her, and that's a bit of an annoyance. But if I could go back, I would literally turn around and say, no, I'm not going to visit family. I'm not going to have people come and visit. I would tell them it's not the best time. I'm currently tired. I'm going to sleep when my baby sleeps. I was fortunate that my baby was actually a good baby, and she would sleep through from about 10 o'clock at night till about 5 in the morning. So I was quite blessed with a very good child that did that. But not everybody is. And their babies are waking up every 2 or 3 hours for feeding, changing, attention, whatever. And you need to be able to rest so that you can be the best of yourself. So if you've just had a baby and it's your very first baby, don't be afraid to turn around and say, look, now's not the best time to come around and basically come and visit the baby and myself. I understand that you want to meet them. I understand that you want to hold them. I understand that this is an exciting time for everyone, but you have to understand that I'm a new parent. I need to adjust. I need to establish my own routine, and then you can come and visit my baby, because I am going to be up 2, 3, 4, 5 times a night dealing with my baby. So when the daytime, when my baby is sleeping, I need to be sleeping. I can't just have people coming around when my baby is sleeping, because I'm not going to get the rest that I need. It's okay to say no. It's okay to turn around and say, look, I need space. I need some time to adjust. But at the same time, it's also okay to try and say, look, you know, I've got a doctor's appointment. Is there any chance you can come round and babysit for me? Because it's not something I can really take my baby to. And ask them then to come round and help. You know, if they say no, you just turn around and say, that's fine. But, you know, I knew that you wanted to meet the baby. So now is your time to meet the baby and obviously look after her for me. Ask family members to step in and give you a helping hand as and when you need them to. It's okay to deal with yourself. I know that this person in particular, she asked me this question and jotted my memory into coming to do this video, but at the same time she was panicking because she has a catheter and she had a blockage, and she was worrying that her baby was crying and she couldn't lean over and pick her up because of how much pain she was in from retention, and she felt really guilty. They're normal feelings. You can feel guilty for not being able to do much for your child in that moment when you yourself need assistance with your medical care. But remember, your child is going to be okay. They're not going to remember that you needed to take that 5 extra minutes just to deal with yourself. They're not going to remember that you had to go and ask the grandparents to babysit overnight if you had to go to hospital and be admitted. They're not going to remember that. What they're going to remember is that you came back and that you took care of them afterwards when you were better. And that's all that matters, because they're going to know that they can still rely on you, because even if they have to go to the grandparents overnight, mummy and daddy are still going to come back, or mummy and mummy are going to still come back, or whatever. You know, at the end of the day, they know that their parent is going to come back and look after them, and that is all that matters to them. They don't care that you needed to go off for a night to go and recuperate and get better and well. You know, you needed to do what you needed to do in that time in order to do what was right for you and your care, so that you could be a better parent the day after. And that is perfectly okay, because your child is just going to remember that mummy came back for me or daddy came back for me. You know, that's all they're going to remember. So try not to be so hard on yourself. If you do a checklist and you don't finish it all, don't be too hard on yourself. You are managing, and it's about finding that balance and finding that routine. Yes, you're going to have days where you're going to feel like you're failing, and the internet doesn't help with that. When people are coming online with the pristine homes and having 5 minutes to clean up and this, that and the other, like, some people unwind that way. But at the same time, if your house isn't pristine but yet your child can crawl around the floor without getting into any danger, then you're already doing a good job. At the end of the day, not everybody has a pristine home, and not everybody has pristine children. And those that show you online that they do are lying to you. They're only showing you a tiny snippet, a teeny weeny bit of their life. They're not showing you everything. They're basically not showing you the tantrums. They're not showing you the mess on the child where you need to change them 3 or 4 times a day because they've slopped food on their clothes. They're not showing you them running around after them because they're too busy getting up off the floor because they don't want to lay there anymore for you to put a nappy on them. Not showing you you wanting to pull your hair out because of the fact they're making you late for an appointment. They're not going to show you any of that. They're showing you a pristine home. They're showing you children they've just been bathed and got dressed, ready for bed or ready for the day. They're not going to show you the bad bits. They're just going to show you the good bits. And that as a whole can make you feel bad as a parent. But I can assure you it's only the same thing as a teenager looking online and seeing a celebrity who has had, you know, photoshops and filters added to the photos and makes them look like a size 0 when actually they're probably a size 10. You know what I mean? It's like nobody shows you the real true things online. It's only small snippets. And when it comes to children having body dysmorphia and things like that, it's because celebrities are portrayed as being perfect when actually behind the scenes they have wrinkles, they have cellulite, they have little podgy bellies. They're just not shown on the internet for people to see, and that can make even children look at themselves and think that they're fat and ugly when actually they're not. They're beautiful specimens that you've created that have a beautiful soul and that are perfect just the way that they are. You know what I mean? So it's just, the internet is such a dangerous place. It can be amazing, but it can be so dangerous, and it can make people feel like they have low self-esteem and that they're not good enough. But as long as you're keeping your children alive, they're safe, you're bringing them up with the right morals and being kind to everyone, regardless of race, religion, sexuality, etc., etc., you know, and you teach them to be respectful, then you're doing an amazing job. If you can get at the end of the day and your baby and your child is still alive and you're still alive and you're coping, you know, and you've managed to take your medications, yeah, you might be in a little bit more pain than usual. And yeah, you might have hit burnout a lot quicker than you would normally do because you've been taking care of a child. Eventually that will start to ease because you will find a routine. So just be you, you will find a routine. Yes, parenting is hard, but even with chronic health conditions, you may be adding a few extra things into that routine, but you will find it will flow eventually. So all those people that come to you and say, I don't know how you cope because I couldn't, what you do is you try and say, well, actually, if you were in my situation, you probably would be able to cope because you will learn to adapt and you will learn to find a routine that works for you. So please don't be too hard on yourself. I hope the little tips of communication, making to-do lists, writing down appointments in 2 different ways, you know, and learning to ask for help and say to people that things are not a good time and things like that are all helpful to you guys. I hope you don't feel like too pressured into being the perfect parent because let's face it, perfect does not exist. You know, just be the best parent that you can be and just make sure that you take time as well for you as for your children. 5 minutes helping them with their homework means everything to a child at the end of the day, and that's what they're going to remember long term. Not going to remember you taking 5 minutes to give yourself medication. Like, that's not gonna, it's not gonna do anything. So don't be too hard on yourselves. Take care of yourselves, find your own balance, find your own routine, and you will find that things will just flow. So that is how I cope. That is how I deal with things. Asking for help is always the hardest, but believe me, you will find that it is the best thing that you could ever do. So yeah, take a little bit of advice from this. I hope it's helpful. I apologize, the video is almost 28 minutes long. But if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for further content. If you have any questions, message them below, or you can always DM me for a one-to-one chat on my Instagram. And yeah, I hope you found this very helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope it's, like I said, I really do hope it's been helpful. But this is my perspective. I'm not telling anybody how to parent. This is literally what I do to manage with chronic health conditions and having a family with chronic health conditions. So like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope it's been helpful. Take care and enjoy your day. Bye.